The moment you wake up, your body is naturally in a state of low energy. This is because your internal clock, known as your circadian rhythm, is still adjusting to the transition from sleep to wakefulness. The circadian rhythm is essentially your body's internal timekeeper, guiding everything from your sleep-wake cycle to hormone release, body temperature, and cognitive function. This rhythm is heavily influenced by external cues, and the most powerful one is light. So the first thing you do when you wake up can have a profound impact on how you feel for the rest of the day. The key to resetting and activating your circadian rhythm is exposure to natural sunlight, and it's crucial that you get this sunlight within the first 30 minutes of waking up. When you step outside or even just let natural light into your space, it sends a signal to your brain that it's time to wake up and be alert. Light, particularly blue light in the morning, stimulates specialized cells in your eyes called photoreceptors, which then send a signal to a part of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This is the master clock of your brain that helps synchronize all the body's biological processes. One of the first things that happens when this signal reaches the brain is the release of cortisol, the hormone most commonly associated with stress, but also essential for alertness and energy. Cortisol helps elevate your blood sugar and increases your alertness so that you're able to handle the demands of the day. This boost of cortisol in the morning also prepares your body for peak performance in the hours ahead, increasing mental clarity, focus, and even physical strength. Additionally, exposure to sunlight helps suppress melatonin, the hormone that promotes sleep. During the night, melatonin builds up, making you feel sleepy, but as sunlight hits your eyes in the morning, it signals your brain to stop producing melatonin, effectively turning off your desire to sleep and reactivating your energy systems. This process ensures that you stay alert and awake throughout the day and that your body's natural sleep-wake cycle remains in sync. The impact of morning sunlight is not just immediate, though. It also helps regulate your sleep quality later in the evening. When you get enough sunlight exposure during the day, especially in the morning, it strengthens your circadian rhythm, making it easier to fall asleep at night. This means you'll have better quality sleep and wake up the next day feeling refreshed and energized. Another remarkable benefit of sunlight exposure is its effect on mood. Natural light triggers the release of serotonin, a neurotransmitter that boosts your mood and feelings of well-being. When your serotonin levels are high, you're more likely to feel motivated and in a positive state of mind, which can have a significant impact on your productivity and relationships. Incorporating sunlight into your morning routine is simple, whether it's stepping outside for a brief walk or simply sitting by a window where sunlight pours in. Making this small adjustment in the first 30 minutes of waking up can dramatically improve your energy, focus, and overall sense of well-being throughout the day. It's a simple habit that yields lasting benefits because when your body's internal rhythm is in harmony with the natural world around you, everything else falls into place. The moment you wake up, your body is emerging from a prolonged fast, typically 6 to 9 hours, without any water intake. During this time, your system has continued functioning. Your brain has been consolidating memories, your heart has been pumping, your lungs have been breathing, all without any fluid replenishment. As a result, you're in a mildly dehydrated state the moment your eyes open. And yet, many of us reach for our phones or coffee before we even think about water. That's a mistake because hydration plays a direct and measurable role in how well your brain and body function from the very beginning of the day. Hydrating immediately after waking is a small but powerful action that primes your body and brain for optimal performance. One of the key reasons is that water intake directly impacts cognitive function. Even a small degree of dehydration, as little as 1 to 2%, can impair attention, memory, and mood. The brain is about 75% water, and without adequate hydration, neurons don't fire efficiently. This means your reaction time slows down, your memory becomes less sharp, and your overall mental clarity is diminished. Simply drinking water within the first 10 minutes of waking helps restore that fluid balance, allowing the brain to function at full capacity. Hydration also influences the electrical activity in your nervous system. Your cells communicate through a finely tuned system of electrical impulses that rely on the proper balance of electrolytes and water. When you're dehydrated, this communication becomes sluggish. Drinking water first thing reestablishes this electrochemical balance, essentially sharpening your entire neural network and preparing your body for the demands of the day. Another significant effect of early hydration is its impact on your metabolism. Drinking water increases what's known as resting energy expenditure, meaning your body burns more calories at rest simply by being hydrated. This thermogenic effect of water can help improve metabolic efficiency, particularly when consumed before any food or caffeine. It wakes up your digestive system and helps the body prepare for nutrient absorption. It also activates the gastrointestinal tract through gentle stimulation, promoting regularity and aiding in detoxification. What's important here is the timing and quality of the hydration. This isn't about slamming down 32 ounces all at once. Aim for 12 to 20 ounces of clean water shortly after waking, ideally before any caffeine, which is a diuretic and can exacerbate dehydration if consumed first. Adding a pinch of sea salt or a few drops of electrolyte solution can further enhance cellular hydration and restore mineral balance, especially if you sweat heavily or live in a hot climate. Think of morning hydration as a signal, not just to your digestive system, but to your entire physiology, that the day has begun. It's a biological trigger, a metabolic ignition switch. Just like exposure to sunlight tells your brain to be alert, hydration tells your body to activate, engage, and perform. In a world where we're constantly looking for ways to boost focus, energy, and productivity, this one habit is low effort, high impact, and completely within your control. When you wake up, your body has spent hours in a state of stillness. Your blood circulation has slowed, your muscles are relaxed, and your nervous system is gradually transitioning from rest to action. This is a critical moment, a window of opportunity to signal your body and brain that it's time to engage with the world. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is through movement. Not necessarily intense exercise, but deliberate, consistent, low to moderate intensity movement in the early part of your day. When you move your body in the morning, even for just 5 to 10 minutes, you stimulate blood flow. This isn't just about warming up your limbs. Blood flow means oxygen and nutrients are being delivered to your brain, muscles, and organs more efficiently. Increased cerebral blood flow specifically enhances neural activity, which improves focus, alertness, and mental clarity. In other words, morning movement literally helps wake up your brain and put it into a state where you can think more clearly and make better decisions. But the benefits aren't just physiological, they're deeply neurochemical. Movement, even in the form of stretching, walking, or light body weight exercises, causes the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine. These are the chemicals responsible for motivation, alertness, and drive. Dopamine in particular plays a major role in how we experience pleasure and set goals. Getting even a small surge of dopamine in the morning can set the tone for how your brain anticipates reward throughout the day, increasing your willingness to engage in effortful tasks. There's also a profound connection between morning movement and mood regulation. Physical activity stimulates the production of endorphins, the body's natural feel-good chemicals. These molecules interact with receptors in the brain to reduce the perception of pain and trigger positive feelings. So when people report feeling happier or lighter after moving their body in the morning, they're not imagining it. It's a measurable neurochemical shift. From a metabolic standpoint, Early movement jumpstarts your glucose metabolism, making your body more efficient at using energy throughout the day. It increases insulin sensitivity, improves cardiovascular health over time, and sets a rhythm for better energy regulation. That's particularly important if you're trying to avoid the mid-morning crash or the post-lunch slump. Importantly, morning movement also interacts with your circadian biology. Physical activity early in the day acts as a secondary cue alongside sunlight that tells your internal clock it's time to be active and alert. This enhances your natural rhythm and helps anchor your wake-sleep cycle more consistently. What kind of movement are we talking about? It doesn't have to be a workout. A brisk walk outside, 10 minutes of mobility drills, jumping jacks, or even dynamic stretches all count. The goal isn't intensity, it's activation. You're sending a message to every system in your body. Wake up, we're in motion now. Incorporating light movement in the first 30 to 60 minutes of your day is a low-friction habit that pays off immediately and accumulates long-term benefits. It primes your brain, energizes your body, and establishes a psychological momentum that carries you into a more productive and balanced day. In today's environment, we're constantly exposed to stimulation. Emails, deadlines, alerts, noise, and unpredictable demands. Our nervous systems are in a near constant state of alert, often without us even realizing it. This state is controlled by the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, which is responsible for the fight or flight response. It's useful in short bursts, but when it's chronically activated, it becomes a major source of stress, fatigue, and even illness. The antidote lies in activating the opposite system, the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest and digest. And one of the most direct, accessible ways to do that is through deep, controlled breathing. Breath is the one part of your autonomic system you can consciously control. You can't will your heart to slow down or your digestion to accelerate, but you can control your breath, and by doing so, influence those systems indirectly. Breathing patterns are deeply tied to the state of your nervous system. Shallow, fast breathing signals stress. Long, slow, deliberate breathing signals safety. When your breath slows, your heart rate follows. Your blood pressure drops. Muscle tension releases. The brain receives feedback that the environment is safe, and it begins to shift into a state of calm focus. Specifically, slow exhalations are key to activating the parasympathetic system. Techniques like box breathing, cyclic sighing, or extended exhale breathing all work on the principle of elongating the exhale to down-regulate the nervous system. When you breathe out slowly, the vagus nerve, a major player in parasympathetic activity, is stimulated. That nerve connects your brain to most of your major organs, and when it's activated, it sends a message that it's okay to relax, to let go of tension, to slow down. What happens next is measurable. Cortisol levels drop. Your brain starts shifting from high beta brainwave activity associated with stress and scattered thinking into alpha waves, which are linked to calm, creative focus states. You're not sedated, but you're no longer in overdrive. You enter what researchers call a state of calm alertness, fully present, but at ease. This shift doesn't take an hour. It can happen in 2 to 5 minutes. That's what makes breathwork such a powerful tool. It's portable, instant, and entirely under your control. You don't need equipment, a mat, or an app. You need a few minutes and your willingness to focus on the inhale and, more importantly, the exhale. Integrating this practice throughout your day creates a baseline of resilience. Instead of letting stress build and explode or drain you, you begin to regulate it in real time. You can insert a breath reset between meetings, before a conversation, after an intense focus session, or even in traffic. Each time you do, you strengthen the neural circuits for calm, clarity, and control. Over time, this becomes your new baseline. Your system learns not just to respond to stress, but to anticipate and regulate it. You become less reactive, more grounded. Breath becomes your anchor, a way to return to center in a world designed to pull you off balance. What you eat is not just fuel, it's information. Every bite you take sends chemical signals that influence your brain, your metabolism, your hormones, and even your emotional state. And yet, many people go through their day eating reactively, grabbing whatever is convenient, skipping meals, or relying on processed foods that create spikes and crashes in energy. This approach doesn't just lead to physical fatigue, it disrupts cognitive function, emotional regulation, and long-term health. But when you shift to intentional nutrition, specifically choosing whole, nutrient-dense foods, you begin to create a biological environment that supports sustained energy, sharper focus, and greater resilience. Let's start with what's happening in the brain. Your brain runs primarily on glucose, but it doesn't respond well to the roller coaster of blood sugar spikes and crashes caused by refined carbohydrates and sugar-laden foods. When you consume a high glycemic meal, say a muffin or sugary cereal, your blood sugar spikes quickly, causing a temporary burst of energy. But what follows is a sharp insulin response and a rapid drop in glucose, leading to brain fog, irritability, and fatigue. This yo-yo effect impairs your ability to stay focused, make clear decisions, and manage stress. Instead, nutrient-dense foods, those that are minimally processed and rich in vitamins, minerals, fiber, and healthy fats, provide a slow and steady release of energy. Think of foods like eggs, avocados, berries, leafy greens, nuts, fatty fish, and fermented vegetables. These aren't just healthy choices, they're strategic tools. They stabilize blood sugar, reduce systemic inflammation, and support the production of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, which directly influence motivation, mood, and cognitive performance. Protein is particularly important here. Consuming high-quality protein early in the day supports dopamine synthesis, which enhances drive and focus. It also promotes satiety, reducing the likelihood of impulsive snacking or crashing before lunch. Combine that with healthy fats like omega-3s from fish or flax, and you enhance the structure and function of neural membranes, essentially improving how well your brain cells communicate. Micronutrients also play a key role. Magnesium, zinc, B vitamins, and choline are all essential for optimal brain health, and they're abundant in whole foods, but often missing from processed ones. When you're under stress or performing at a high cognitive level, your body burns through these nutrients faster. Without replenishment, mental fatigue sets in, sometimes before you even realize why. Hydration and nutrition go hand in hand. Eating hydrating foods like cucumbers, citrus, and leafy greens support cellular function. Fiber-rich vegetables feed your gut microbiome, which in turn influences everything from immune response to neurotransmitter production. A healthier gut means a healthier brain. Intentional nutrition isn't about perfection or restriction, it's about alignment. Aligning what you eat with how you want to feel and perform. It's about creating a rhythm of eating that stabilizes your energy and sharpens your focus so your body isn't working against you, but with you. Every meal is a chance to signal clarity, strength, and control. When you make food choices consciously, you take control of your biology, and that changes everything. As the day winds down, your brain doesn't automatically switch gears. In fact, for most people, mental activity ramps up in the evening. Thoughts race, unresolved stress surfaces, and emotional processing kicks in just as you're trying to settle down. The nervous system, which has been in a state of high engagement all day, often remains activated well into the night. That's a problem because sleep isn't just about turning off. It's about preparing the brain to shift from a high-frequency, task-oriented mode into a slower, more regenerative rhythm. This is where mindfulness comes in, not as a spiritual practice, but as a biological tool to regulate your internal state and optimize brain function before sleep. Mindfulness, when practiced consistently in the evening, serves three key functions. It processes the day's cognitive load, it regulates emotional circuitry, and it creates the neurophysiological conditions required for deep, restorative sleep. Let's break that down. First, the cognitive processing piece. Throughout the day, your brain is constantly taking in information, solving problems, and managing social interactions. Most of this doesn't get fully filed until later, during sleep, particularly during REM and deep sleep stages. But mindfulness, even just 5 to 10 minutes of focused, non-judgmental attention to your breath, body, or surroundings, helps the brain begin that sorting process earlier. You're effectively giving your mind a head start in organizing thoughts, letting go of unnecessary loops, and transitioning from mental clutter to cognitive clarity. Next, the emotional layer. Stress, frustration, and social friction accumulate throughout the day. If not processed, this emotional residue continues to activate limbic structures in the brain, like the amygdala, well into the evening. This disrupts not only your ability to relax, but also your sleep quality. Mindfulness activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for executive control, and strengthens its communication with the limbic system. What that means in practical terms is that you become better at regulating your emotions, detaching from reactive patterns, and shifting into a calmer, more reflective state. Physiologically, mindfulness shifts the nervous system out of the sympathetic fight or flight mode and into the parasympathetic rest and digest mode. Heart rate slows, breathing deepens, and blood pressure drops. Brainwave activity begins to shift from high-frequency beta waves into slower alpha and theta waves, which are more conducive to sleep. This transition primes the body and brain to enter sleep not just faster, but more deeply, improving the architecture of sleep itself. This doesn't require an hour-long meditation or a specific app. It can be as simple as sitting quietly, focusing on your breath, performing a body scan, or writing in a journal with full attention. The key is intention and consistency. You're not trying to achieve a particular state. You're simply creating space to observe, to let go, and to reset. When practiced regularly, evening mindfulness becomes a neurological cue, a signal that the day is done, that the system can power down, and that recovery can begin. It's one of the most accessible and powerful ways to close the loop on daily stress and give the brain exactly what it needs to reset, repair, and prepare for the next day with clarity and calm. The human brain is designed to change, not just through dramatic experiences or breakthroughs, but through small, repeated behaviors. This is the principle of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself in response to what you do consistently. Habits, when practiced daily, act like training signals. They don't just influence your psychology, they reshape your biology. When you engage in a set of intentional low-friction behaviors across 21 days, you're not simply building a routine. You're triggering long-term adaptations in neural circuitry, hormone regulation, metabolic function, and emotional resilience. What's crucial to understand is that the brain doesn't distinguish between large and small actions in terms of impact. It measures repetition and emotional salience. So when you expose yourself to sunlight each morning, hydrate properly, move your body, eat nutrient-dense foods, breathe deeply and reflect mindfully each day, even in small doses, your nervous system interprets this as a consistent pattern of regulation and optimization. That repeated signaling begins to shift the default settings of how your body and brain operate. After about 21 days of daily practice, two things happen. First, you begin to build automaticity. This is when a behavior no longer requires conscious effort. It begins to feel natural. Neural pathways that once required focused attention become streamlined. This efficiency frees up cognitive bandwidth, allowing you to operate with more energy and clarity. Second, and perhaps more importantly, you start to accumulate biological momentum. You're not just changing how you feel today, you're shifting baseline functions. Your sleep quality improves, cortisol responses become more stable, inflammation lowers, and your mood and focus become more consistent. There's also a psychological component. Repeating these habits signals to the brain that you are in control of your internal state. This sense of agency, even over small actions, increases dopamine tone. You start to feel more motivated, not just because the behavior feels good in the moment, but because the brain begins to anticipate that these actions are part of a reliable reward loop. That's the key to long-term change. Not just executing the habits, but creating positive feedback between action and internal state. Across 21 days, what begins as effortful becomes embodied. You no longer have to convince yourself to take action. Your biology expects it. And once that expectation is established, the brain resists moving backward. It prefers stability, especially when the current state is efficient, rewarding, and predictable. This doesn't mean every day has to be perfect. It means the pattern, the overall signal needs to be consistent. The brain is tracking averages, not exceptions. If you miss a day, you haven't failed. What matters is returning to the signal, reinforcing the feedback loop that says, this is who I am now. This is how I operate. Small daily actions practiced over 21 days aren't just behavioral tweaks, they are system-level upgrades. You're creating a body and brain that are not only healthier, but better equipped to handle challenge, maintain clarity, and pursue long-term goals with consistency and control. So here's the truth. Change doesn't require a complete life overhaul. It begins with small, repeatable actions that send powerful signals to your brain and body. 6 habits, simple but strategic. Practiced daily over 21 days can rewire your nervous system, sharpen your focus, elevate your mood, and transform the way you show up in the world. This is not about motivation. It's about systems. You're not chasing intensity. You're building identity. 1 morning breath, 1 glass of water, 1 mindful moment at a time. And when you stay consistent, even in the smallest ways, you gain something far more valuable than progress. You gain control. And with that, you don't just change your habits, you change your life.